The Galactic Council convened in a grand hall that gleamed with polished metal and holographic projections of countless stars. The counselors, representing species from across the galaxy, were a collection of beings with forms as diverse as their temperaments. Presiding over them was Counselor Vrask, a towering, scaled figure with 6 limbs and a voice that resonated with authority. As the session began, his gaze turned to the holographic map where a small blue planet, marked Earth, hovered near the outer regions. "Counselors," he began, "our next matter concerns the resource quotas. Earth has persistently underdelivered, relying on arguments of sovereignty and autonomy." The council members exchanged glances, some showing mild amusement. Earth's representatives had become notorious for their tenacity, though to the council, their objections were more an annoyance than a credible threat. Counselor Grath, a gaseous entity whose form shifted within its containment field, spoke next, its voice a soft hum. "We should have taken measures long ago. Earth has always been unpredictable. We've observed an unusual resistance to our guidance compared to other worlds." A counselor from a nearby system added, "We gave Earth the opportunity to contribute, to join in harmony with our collective purpose. They refused to acknowledge that they're part of a greater whole." Counselor Vrask nodded, folding his limbs thoughtfully. "Indeed. It appears they mistake our patience for weakness. Perhaps it's time we ensure compliance through more assertive measures." He gestured to a shimmering document projected above him. It detailed the new mandate. Earth would be required to increase its output by 50%, supplying crucial materials the Council claimed would benefit the galactic network. Earth must comply. They are a minor planet. If they refuse, they will face consequences. Vrask continued, his voice smooth but edged with a subtle threat. A few representatives murmured their agreement, though others hesitated. Earth was technologically behind many of their worlds, but it had an unusual resilience. Nevertheless, the Council was certain Earth would fall in line once the full scope of their power was demonstrated. The Council had, after all, subdued far more advanced civilizations before. One additional small-scale enforcement mission would barely warrant attention. Just as Vrask prepared to conclude the matter, a light blinked on his panel. Earth's representative had requested to address the Council once more, despite previous warnings against further interruptions. A wave of exasperation swept through the councilors, but Vrask permitted it, almost relishing the thought of silencing Earth's defiance once and for all. A moment later, the hologram shifted to reveal the figure of Earth's ambassador, standing tall despite the clear strain in his features. He looked around at the gathered councilors, each one more alien than the next, and his expression was firm. "Councilors," he began, his voice steady, "we understand your position, but we cannot, and will not, comply with this directive. Humanity has a long history of resisting when forced to surrender its autonomy. We respect the Council's authority, but we will not become mere suppliers at the expense of our sovereignty." The room fell silent, the councilors exchanging looks of disbelief. A few chuckled, not bothering to hide their contempt for what they viewed as naivety or bravado. Counselor Grath's hum grew sharper, almost mocking. "Ambassador, you seem to misunderstand. The Council does not negotiate under threats or refusals. You are but one planet. Your cooperation is not optional." The ambassador's gaze remained unyielding, meeting Grath's eyes through the holographic feed. "We may be just one planet, Counselor, but we are not without our own means. We have extended offers of trade, of fair cooperation. What we refuse is subjugation. I ask you to reconsider, not for Earth's sake alone, but for the principles you claim to uphold." Vrask leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Ambassador, consider this your final warning. The Council has operated for millennia, maintaining peace across galaxies. Do not presume to lecture us on principles or justice. We do what is necessary for the greater stability. Your objections will not change that." The ambassador paused, choosing his next words carefully. "Understood, Counselor. But if you proceed with enforcement, know that Earth will respond. We are prepared to defend our autonomy with all means at our disposal." Counselor Vrask's lips twisted into a thin smile. We will take that as an act of defiance, Ambassador. Expect our fleet soon. The hologram blinked off, and the counselors returned their attention to the central display. For them, Earth's resistance was little more than a temporary inconvenience. They had encountered rebellion before, and their military strength had never been challenged in any meaningful way. A few counselors muttered about humanity's stubbornness, while others dismissed Earth as a backwater planet not worth further discussion. Vrask made a few final remarks, instructing the Council's fleet commander to prepare for Earth's compliance mission. The plan was straightforward. A show of force would demonstrate the futility of resistance, and Earth would fall in line as expected. The decision had been made. The Council's fleet, a formidable array of ships from several advanced civilizations, was dispatched toward Earth. Each vessel carried cutting-edge technology, weapons capable of disabling planetary defenses in moments. For the Council, this show of force was intended to be swift and effective, an overwhelming statement that would reinforce the Council's authority and swiftly bring Earth to heel. As the fleet moved through space, the officers and commanders on board were largely indifferent to the mission's implications. Most viewed Earth as an insignificant outlier, a primitive world with an inflated sense of independence. To them, this operation was nothing more than a routine compliance task, one that would end with Earth's resources properly allocated to the Council's needs. But what none of the Council's strategists anticipated was that Earth had long been preparing for a moment like this. Over the years, humankind had detected subtle shifts in the galaxy's political climate and had sensed an encroaching threat. Though Earth was technologically behind some of the more advanced civilizations, humanity's history was one of adaptability, resilience, and strategic ingenuity. Secretly, governments and scientists across Earth's nations had been collaborating on a defense initiative, one they hoped would never need to be used but was ready nonetheless. As the Council's fleet crossed into Earth's solar system, they were surprised by the rapid mobilization of Earth's forces. Humanity's response was unlike anything the Council had encountered from other worlds. Instead of panic or surrender, there was a calculated resolve. Earth's leaders had anticipated this move and had initiated a coordinated defense strategy with practiced precision. The planet's orbital platforms activated, satellites aligned, and a network of defensive shields shimmered to life. The fleet's commander, a veteran strategist from a race known for its conquest of lesser planets, was unimpressed by these gestures. He saw Earth's response as little more than a delay. "Engage formation," he ordered calmly, his voice resonating through the command center. "We will neutralize their defenses and proceed as planned." The ships moved into a standard formation, preparing to disable Earth's defenses. The Council's technology was far superior in many ways. They expected minimal resistance. But as the fleet advanced, Earth's forces demonstrated an unexpected adaptability, leveraging every asset at their disposal. A barrage of missiles launched from Earth's surface, followed by pulses of high-intensity laser fire from orbiting platforms. These were tactics the Council's ships could counter, but what caught them off guard was the precision and timing of Earth's attacks. Human tactics, developed from centuries of warfare and strategy on Earth, combined asymmetrical approaches that exploited every minor weakness in the Council's formation. Where one missile strike failed, a well-timed follow-up would take advantage of a momentary gap, forcing the fleet to recalibrate. At first, the fleet commanders assumed these moves were mere coincidence, the last-ditch attempts of a desperate planet. But as the battle intensified, it became clear that Earth's tactics were far from random. Each move was calculated, designed to inflict maximum damage while minimizing Earth's exposure. The Council fleet's initial confidence began to waver, as one ship after another sustained damage. Shields flickered under Earth's sustained assault, and a few of the outer vessels had to pull back for emergency repairs. In the command center of the flagship, the fleet commander clenched his jaw, his composure slipping. He had underestimated Earth, treating the planet as he would any other primitive world. This resistance was unexpected, and he felt a flash of irritation, tinged with a hint of unease. "Adjust formation," he barked to his officers, "and recalibrate targeting systems to account for their trajectory shifts." The crew scrambled to comply, rerouting power to weapons systems and reinforcing shields. But as they did, Earth's forces responded with renewed vigor, as if anticipating every adjustment. Earth's forces were not just relying on technology but on a profound understanding of tactics and psychological warfare. The fleet commander realized, too late, that the humans were using the fleet's own arrogance against them. Earth had studied the Council's past encounters with other planets, adapting their defenses to exploit the very weaknesses that the Council had failed to address in its superiority complex. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the planet's leaders monitored the situation from underground command centers. Military generals, scientists, and political officials worked together seamlessly, coordinating the global defense effort. Civilians watched from their homes, united in a shared resolve. The idea of submitting to an external authority, especially one that treated them as disposable, had galvanized humanity in a way few could have predicted. Messages were broadcast across Earth's networks, urging unity and determination. This was not just a defense of territory, it was a defense of humanity's right to self-determination. The people of Earth, from every nation and background, understood that this was a moment that would define them. This was a fight for their survival and for the preservation of their identity as a free species. Back in space, the Council's fleet was beginning to splinter. The once cohesive force now found itself scattered, its formation disrupted by Earth's relentless assaults. Some of the ships were forced to retreat, their shields failing and weapon systems compromised. The fleet commander, facing a situation he had never encountered, struggled to maintain control. In a final, desperate attempt to regain the upper hand, he ordered an all-out attack, directing every remaining ship to converge on Earth's primary defense satellites. The idea was to cripple Earth's orbital capabilities, rendering the planet vulnerable to a ground assault. But Earth's leaders had anticipated this too. A secondary line of defense, hidden just beyond the fleet's sensors, activated and engaged the Council's ships with lethal precision. Earth's technological adaptations, while not as advanced as the Council's, were honed for exactly this kind of engagement. The fleet's ships, despite their superior firepower, were not designed for sustained conflict with a world as strategically coordinated as Earth. One by one, they fell out of formation, struggling against a constant barrage of coordinated attacks. The fleet commander, watching his forces dwindle, realized with a sinking feeling that he had grossly underestimated Earth. He had assumed this would be an easy compliance mission, but humanity's fierce resistance was unlike anything he had ever encountered. His fleet, once a symbol of the Council's unchallenged power, was now on the verge of defeat. Just as the situation reached its breaking point, a transmission from Earth cut through the chaos, directed straight to the flagship. It was Earth's ambassador, his voice steady and calm. "Council fleet, you have now witnessed humanity's resolve. We are willing to defend our freedom, even at great cost. If you value peace, you will withdraw now. Let this be a reminder that Earth is not merely a resource to exploit. We are a sovereign world, and we will not surrender." The ambassador's words echoed through the command center, and the fleet commander felt the weight of his failure. The Council had believed it could impose its will on any species, that compliance was inevitable. But Earth had proven them wrong, showing a strength and unity that no one in the Council had anticipated. In a rare moment of clarity, the fleet commander made his decision. Reluctantly, he issued the order to retreat. The order to retreat rippled through the fleet, echoing in the stunned silence of each ship's command center. Disbelief and frustration painted the faces of officers who had been so confident in their superiority just hours before. For a fleet as advanced and experienced as the Council's, retreat was a rare command, a concession of defeat that went against their every training and instinct. But with each ship damaged and their formation shattered, continuing the fight would risk total annihilation. For the first time in centuries, the Council's forces were pulling back, not out of strategy, but out of sheer necessity. As the fleet turned away from Earth, the sight of their retreat was broadcasted across human networks. Civilians, watching anxiously from their homes, erupted into cheers, many openly crying with relief. For generations, humanity had felt itself on the edge of galactic obscurity, unknown and disregarded by more powerful species. Now they had proven themselves resilient, capable, and worthy of respect. The impact of their victory, however, was more than just a triumph in battle. It was a statement that would resonate throughout the galaxy, sparking conversations that would change humanity's place among the stars forever. In the Galactic Council chambers, word of the fleet's retreat spread quickly. News of Earth's defiance and the Council fleet's inability to subdue them was relayed through an emergency assembly. Representatives from various star systems and alliances gathered, their faces flickering with a mix of concern, disbelief, and in some cases, admiration. For most, the notion of a single planet standing up to the Council's fleet was beyond comprehension. Earth's success sent shockwaves through the galaxy, disrupting centuries of Council dominance and sparking an unprecedented debate. At the center of the chamber, the Council's High Chancellor struggled to maintain order as representatives demanded answers. How did a technologically inferior planet repel one of our finest fleets? A dignitary from the Norcal Empire exclaimed. This raises questions about our intelligence, our methods, and our very authority. Others nodded in agreement, while a few voices expressed grudging respect for Earth's boldness. The High Chancellor, a figure known for their measured approach to governance, found themselves grappling with a dilemma far more complex than they had anticipated. The Council's reputation as an unchallenged authority had now been openly defied, and not by some advanced civilization, but by an emerging world, a world that, by all prior estimates, should have posed no threat to their fleet. This was no longer just a question of resources or territorial expansion. It was a fundamental challenge to the Council's credibility and the very structure that had maintained galactic order for so long. Amid the uproar, an unexpected silence fell as Earth's ambassador was given the opportunity to address the assembly. Appearing on a holographic display in the center of the chamber, the ambassador's presence commanded immediate attention. He stood tall, his face calm but resolute, an image of Earth's newfound confidence. Members of the Council, he began, his voice echoing through the chamber. We did not seek conflict with the Galactic Council. But let me be clear, Earth will not be subjugated. We respect the Council's role in maintaining galactic order, but we will not be exploited for our resources, nor will we be treated as lesser beings. We desire peace, but we will defend our freedom with all we have. A murmur rippled through the chamber as the ambassadors of other planets considered his words. Many were surprised by the directness of his speech. There was no subservience in his tone, no plea for leniency. Instead, there was a quiet dignity, a reminder that humanity valued its autonomy and would defend it at any cost. The ambassadors exchanged glances, some nodding slightly, others frowning in discomfort at the challenge Earth was now presenting. The High Chancellor, aware of the potential for escalation, raised a hand to quiet the assembly. Ambassador, they responded. The Council's intention was never to exploit Earth but to integrate it into our shared prosperity. Perhaps there were misunderstandings. However, your planet's actions have disrupted a long-standing peace and set a dangerous precedent. The ambassador met the Chancellor's gaze without flinching. If peace is what you desire, then respect for sovereignty must be its foundation. The Council has overseen the expansion and growth of countless civilizations. We acknowledge that. But Earth has proven today that we are not a world to be disregarded or coerced. If integration is your goal, let it be through cooperation, not conquest. The Chancellor's face remained impassive, but a spark of acknowledgement flickered in their eyes. This was uncharted territory, a world on the Council's fringe, technologically inferior yet culturally strong, demanding terms for their own inclusion. The situation called for a delicate approach, one that would preserve the Council's authority without diminishing Earth's triumph. As the ambassadors from other planets watched, many found themselves unexpectedly aligned with Earth's stance. Representatives from worlds that had long harbored their own grievances with the Council's policies saw in humanity a reflection of their own struggles for self-determination. Whispers spread among the chamber as planets that had long submitted to the Council's authority began to consider new possibilities. If Earth could challenge the Council's assumptions and emerge with its autonomy intact, then perhaps others could as well. Observing this shift, the High Chancellor sensed the urgency of establishing a new approach. Ambassador, they said after a pause, in light of Earth's resilience and in recognition of the will of its people, the Council will discuss terms that honor both peace and respect for your planet's sovereignty. Let it be understood that Earth will be granted observer status, with the potential for full membership under conditions mutually agreed upon." The ambassador inclined his head in acknowledgement. "That is a promising beginning," he replied. "But we will not enter this alliance as observers alone. We come as equals, bringing our unique perspective to the galaxy. Humanity has proven itself today, not just through force, but through a will to stand by its principles. Let our presence in the Council reflect that." His words, bold yet measured, resonated throughout the chamber. The Council members, caught between the shock of Earth's defiance and the undeniable strength of the ambassador's proposal, found themselves rethinking the Council's approach to governance. What had started as a show of dominance had transformed into a moment of profound reckoning. Humanity's entry into the Council was no longer a question of mere integration. It was a redefinition of the Council's relationship with its member worlds. For Earth, this was not just a political victory but a cultural one as well. Humanity had seized a moment to define its role in the galaxy, not as a passive, exploitable resource but as a partner with its own voice. Back on Earth, as the news spread, the planet's people celebrated not only their leader's courage, but the realization that they had just taken their first steps into a larger universe, one that would now regard them as equals. In the days that followed, other planets in the Council began to reassess their own positions, inspired by Earth's success. Some spoke openly of seeking new terms with the Council, while others began to question the long-standing assumptions about hierarchy and power within the galaxy. Earth had sparked a movement, a subtle yet undeniable shift in the balance of power. For the High Chancellor and the Council leaders, this was a sobering realization. Humanity, in asserting its independence, had opened the door to a galaxy where peace was built on mutual respect, not mere compliance. The Council now faced the challenge of adapting to a reality where member worlds would demand equal standing. In the end, Earth's defiance did more than secure its freedom. It redefined the Council's purpose and reshaped the galaxy's future. Humanity had entered the galactic stage not through submission but through strength and conviction, and their place in this vast, complex galaxy was now firmly established. The High Chancellor faced a difficult task as the uproar from other Council members intensified. Representatives from numerous systems voiced their concerns, not just about Earth, but about the implications for their own planets. Earth's assertive demand for equality resonated far beyond the initial conflict, triggering discussions on autonomy and independence that had long been simmering below the surface. For centuries, the Council's authority had been largely uncontested, its policies shaping the galaxy with little resistance. Yet Earth's resistance, its unapologetic assertion of sovereignty, was changing that, bringing about questions the Council had never needed to answer before. The ambassador from the Zaran Alliance spoke up, her voice calm but firm. "Earth's stance forces us all to consider our own positions. Many of us accepted Council governance without question, trusting in its wisdom. But this incident reveals that perhaps we have surrendered too much autonomy in the name of order." Murmurs of agreement spread through the assembly. The Zaran were an old member of the Council, their loyalty unquestioned, until now. Their ambassador's words were a significant shift, hinting that Earth's defiance had awakened a collective consciousness that wasn't easily stilled. The High Chancellor took a measured breath before addressing the assembly. "The Council's primary duty is to maintain stability and unity. Our actions toward Earth, however, have highlighted the limitations of our current approach. Earth's resistance and demand for equality have brought a necessary conversation to light, and we must respond with wisdom and openness." Representatives from several planets nodded, acknowledging the need for a new approach. Others, however, expressed concern over weakening the Council's control, fearing it might lead to chaos. The ambassador from the wealthy Zelvian consortium leaned forward, his expression resolute. "The Council was designed to ensure peace across the galaxy. If we allow each world to dictate its terms, we risk losing the cohesion that has kept us secure for millennia. Earth's actions may inspire similar defiance, and I question whether this is the precedent we wish to set." Across the chamber, voices rose in both support and opposition. The debate grew heated as each representative considered the implications of Earth's example for their own worlds. For some, Earth's actions represented a path to freedom from council overreach, while for others, it was a threat to the order that had preserved peace. The tension in the room was palpable, each faction grappling with its vision of the galaxy's future. In the midst of the discord, Earth's ambassador watched carefully. He understood that this was more than a defense of his planet. It was a defining moment for the galaxy. Taking a steadying breath, he spoke, addressing both supporters and detractors alike. I understand the Council's concerns and the delicate balance it seeks to maintain. But Earth's actions were not about defiance for its own sake. They were about securing the dignity and freedom of every citizen on our planet. We are willing to work alongside the Council, not as subjects, but as equals who respect its role in unifying our diverse galaxy. The ambassador's words gave pause to many in the chamber, including those who had been most vocally opposed. He continued, his tone resolute yet conciliatory. We do not wish to disrupt the harmony that the Council has worked to establish. But neither do we believe that harmony must come at the expense of autonomy. There is a way to preserve both. By recognizing the sovereignty of each member world, the Council could forge a stronger alliance, one based on mutual respect rather than enforced submission. The High Chancellor leaned forward, their face thoughtful. They had presided over countless debates, but this one was unprecedented in both scope and significance. The ambassador's proposal was bold, suggesting that the Council's structure could evolve without sacrificing unity. It was a daring vision, one that required trust and the willingness to see strength in diversity rather than in conformity. The chamber grew quiet as the Chancellor gathered their thoughts. Ambassador, they began slowly, your proposal suggests a restructuring of our very foundation. To respect autonomy while maintaining order is a challenging balance. Yet Earth's position has reminded us that the Council exists to serve the galaxy's people, not to subdue them. The Chancellor looked around the room, gauging the reactions of the assembled representatives. If the Council is to continue leading, it must adapt to the needs of its members, acknowledging that respect and authority can coexist. An unexpected shift took hold in the room. Representatives from star systems that had long felt marginalized under the Council's rule voiced their support for a new structure. The ambassador from Lorien, a world on the outskirts of the Council's influence, spoke up. The Council's leadership has been invaluable, but it has often overlooked the unique needs of less prominent worlds. A framework that balances autonomy with unity would strengthen our bonds, not weaken them. Others quickly echoed Lorien's sentiments, their voices filled with a long-held desire for greater representation. The realization dawned across the chamber. Earth's resistance had sparked more than a political movement. It had ignited a collective demand for change. The Council was not facing a single dissenter but the combined voices of planets seeking a more inclusive alliance. In the face of this growing consensus, the High Chancellor made a decision. Very well, they announced. The Council will form a committee to draft a new Charter of Galactic Unity. This charter will seek to define the terms of autonomy, alliance, and cooperation among our members. Earth's ambassador, you will have a seat on this committee as a representative of those seeking a balanced approach. Together, we will shape a path that upholds the Council's mission while respecting the unique identity of each world. The announcement was met with murmurs of approval. Representatives from planets large and small nodded in agreement, hopeful for a future that would respect both their independence and their shared goals. Earth's ambassador nodded, accepting the responsibility with a sense of solemn pride. This was more than a victory for Earth. It was a step toward a future where each planet's voice, no matter how small or distant, could contribute to a stronger galaxy. In the days that followed, the council chambers were filled with discussions and proposals, each idea contributing to the emerging vision of a reformed alliance. Earth's stance had paved the way for a new era, one in which cooperation was based not on compulsion but on choice. The journey would be long, and the challenges would be many, but the Council had taken its first step toward a more inclusive future. And as word of the historic decision spread across the galaxy, planets everywhere felt the ripple of Earth's defiance. The message was clear: unity did not require submission, and strength could be found in diversity. The Galactic Council, once seen as a rigid hierarchy, was evolving into a true alliance of worlds. The announcement of the committee and the upcoming Charter of Galactic Unity sent waves through the galaxy. The media channels of hundreds of planets buzzed with the news, sparking discussions in homes, forums, and gathering places across systems. People were both stunned and inspired. Earth's unexpected defiance had evolved into a movement that gave voice to countless other worlds that had long yearned for the recognition of their autonomy and dignity within the galaxy's larger framework. As representatives prepared to participate in drafting the new charter, the mood was a mix of optimism and cautious anticipation. On Earth, the citizens received the news with a mix of pride and relief. Their leaders had made a bold choice, facing down the galaxy's oldest and most established power structure to demand equality. This wasn't just a diplomatic victory, it felt deeply personal. For centuries, Earth had looked up at the stars, wondering what lay beyond, imagining alliances and friendships, yet also fearing subjugation or exclusion. Now, they stood shoulder to shoulder with the galaxy's great civilizations, a testament to their resilience and courage. The committee convened within the Council's central chamber, where debates were usually held. The gathering was monumental. Representatives from Earth and other planets sat side by side with long-standing Council members, each ready to contribute to this unprecedented document. Earth's ambassador took his seat, feeling a powerful sense of responsibility. This was no ordinary negotiation. Every word crafted, every principle set down, would shape the future of galactic governance. In these early meetings, a powerful question loomed: what kind of unity was possible without imposing control? Council representatives, particularly those from the larger and wealthier star systems, raised concerns that loosening centralized authority could weaken the Council's ability to maintain peace and mediate conflicts. These representatives feared that without clear guidance, conflicts could erupt between worlds with different customs, ideologies, and resources. Earth's ambassador listened carefully to these concerns, understanding the genuine fears at their core. Then, when it was his turn to speak, he responded thoughtfully. What we are proposing is not a rejection of guidance, but a call for mutual respect. The Council's authority would be far stronger if it were built on trust rather than fear. Worlds should be able to turn to the Council for support and partnership, not be required to surrender their sovereignty. The room was silent, many representatives processing this new perspective. Beside him, the ambassador from Lorien nodded in agreement. It's time the Council is seen as a coalition of allies, rather than a distant power to be appeased. True peace, after all, is built on understanding, not subjugation. The next few sessions were dedicated to drafting the core principles of the Charter of Galactic Unity. Each representative contributed from their own world's experiences and perspectives. From the Zaran Alliance, a proposal emerged to ensure that all member worlds, regardless of size or wealth, would have equal representation in Council decisions. The Lorien representative emphasized the importance of protecting cultural practices and values, urging the committee to include a clause ensuring that no world would be forced to abandon its traditions. One by one, these ideas formed the heart of the new charter. Each principle was carefully discussed, refined, and agreed upon. The document grew into something beautiful, an intricate balance between independence and cooperation. For Earth's ambassador, it was a proud moment. He watched as representatives who had once eyed each other with suspicion now exchanged ideas openly, sharing stories from their home worlds, each contributing to a common goal. As they neared the final stages of drafting, the High Chancellor spoke up, her tone both solemn and hopeful. Today, we do not simply alter a document. We mark the beginning of a new era for this galaxy. One where unity is not imposed but embraced, where each world is valued for its uniqueness, and where we stand stronger together. After months of intense work, the Charter of Galactic Unity was complete. It set forth the principles of mutual respect, shared governance, and peaceful cooperation, acknowledging the unique cultures, rights, and laws of each member world. It also established new forums for planetary representatives to raise concerns, voice their needs, and propose initiatives, ensuring that no planet, no matter how small, would go unheard. The day of the Charter's ratification was one of celebration across many worlds. People gathered in streets and town centers, watching live transmissions as the Council formally adopted the new Charter. On Earth, citizens cheered, watching as their ambassador signed the document, his hand steady, his heart full of hope for the future. Across the galaxy, the change was immediate. Planets began to adapt their local governance, inspired by the possibilities this new structure allowed. Neighboring worlds, once distant and unapproachable, reached out to each other, forming alliances and trade agreements independent of the Council. For the first time in centuries, systems that had lived in the shadow of greater powers began to envision a future built on their own terms. In the Council, too, change was evident. Meetings transformed from rigid displays of authority to vibrant discussions. Representatives no longer feared retribution for speaking against the status quo. Instead, they saw a council evolving, becoming more inclusive, more responsive, and more attuned to the needs of its members. For Earth, this moment was more than a diplomatic milestone, it was a statement of identity. The citizens of Earth knew they had made their mark in the galaxy, proving that they could stand tall among the stars without compromising their principles. Earth had shown that strength did not come from overpowering others, but from uniting under shared values and respect. The galaxy had entered a new chapter, one where planets large and small could walk together as equals, forging a future defined not by imposed peace, but by chosen alliances. It was a future where every voice mattered, and where each world had the chance to contribute to a shared destiny. For Earth, and for the galaxy, it was a victory not only of diplomacy but of the spirit, proof that even in the vastness of space, true unity was possible.